I'm going to read about Lieutenant General Lewis B. Puller from the United States Marine Corps and the namesake of the USS Lewis B. Puller ship. Lieutenant General Lewis B. Chesty Puller was a colorful veteran of the Korean War, 4 World War II campaigns, and expeditionary service in China, Nicaragua, Haiti. He was the only Marine to win the Navy Cross 5 times for heroism and gallantry in combat. A Marine officer and enlisted man for 37 years, General Puller served at sea or overseas, but for all but 10 of those years, including a hitch as a commander of the Horse Marines in China. Excluding medals from foreign governments, he won a total of 14 personal decorations in combat, plus a long list of campaign medals, unit citations, ribbons, and other awards. In addition, the Navy Cross is the highest honor the Navy can bestow. He holds its Army equivalent, the Distinguished Service Cross. Now, born on the 26th of June, 1898, at West Point, Virginia, the general attended Virginia Military Institute until he enlisted in the Marine Corps in August of 1918. He was appointed a Marine Reserve second lieutenant on the 16th of June, 1919, but due to force reductions after World War I, he was placed on inactive duty 10 days later. He rejoined the Marines as an enlisted man and served as Gendarmerie de Haiti, a military force in that country under a treaty with the United States. Most of its officers were United States Marines, while its enlisted personnel were Haitians. After almost 5 years in Haiti, where he saw frequent action against the Keiko rebels, Puller returned in March of 1924 to the United States. He was commissioned a Marine second lieutenant that same month, and during the next 2 years served as the Marine barracks in Norfolk, Virginia, completed the basic school at Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and served with the 10th Marine Regiment at Quantico, Virginia. In July of 1926, Puller embarked on a 2-year tour of duty at the Marine Barracks, Pearl Harbor. Returning in June of 1928, he served in San Diego, California until he joined the Nicaraguan National Guard detachment that December. After winning his first Naval Cross in Nicaragua, he returned to the United States in July of 1931 to enter the company commander's course at the Army Infantry School, Fort Benning, Georgia. He completed the course in June 1932 and returned to Nicaragua the following month to begin the tour of duty brought him his second Navy Cross. In January 1933, Puller left Nicaragua for the United States. A month later, he sailed from San Francisco to join the Marine detachment at the American Legation at Peiping, China. There, in addition to other duties, he commanded the famed Horse Marines. Without coming back to the United States, he began a tour of sea duty on the USS Augusta of the Asiatic Fleet. In June of 1936, he returned to the United States to become an instructor in the basic school at Philadelphia. He left there in May of 1939 to serve another year as commander of the Augusta's Marine Detachment, and from that cruiser joined the 4th Marine Regiment at Shanghai, China in 1940. After serving as a battalion executive and commanding officer with the 4th Marines, Puller sailed for the United States in August of 1941. In September, he took command of the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division at Camp Lejeune. That regiment was detached from the 1st Marine Division in March of 1942, and the following month, as part of the 3rd Marine Brigade, sailed for the South Pacific Theater. The 7th Regiment joined the 1st Marine Division in September 1942, and Puller, still commanding its 1st Battalion went to win his 3rd Naval Cross at Guadalcanal. The action that brought him that medal occurred on the night of October 24th and 5th, 1942. For a desperate 3 hours, his battalion, stretched over a mile front, was the only defense between vital Henderson Airfield and a regiment of seasoned Japanese troops. In pouring jungle rain, the Japanese smashed repeatedly at his thin line as General Fuller moved up and down the length to encourage his men and direct the defense. After reinforcements arrived, he commanded the argument force until late the next afternoon. The defending Marines suffered less than 70 casualties in the engagement, while 1,400 of the enemy were killed, and 17 truckloads of Japanese equipment were recovered by the Americans. After Guadalcanal, Fuller became executive officer of the 7th Marines. He was fighting in the capacity when he won his 4th Naval Cross at Cape Gloucester in January 1944. There, when the commanders of the 2 battalions were wounded, he took over their units and moved through the heavy machine gun and mortar fire to recognize them for attack, then led them, taking them strongly the fortified enemy position. In February 1944, Fuller took command of the 1st Marines at Cape Gloucester. After leading that regiment for the remainder of the campaign, he sailed with it for the Russell Islands in April of 1944. He went on to command it at Kailua in September and October of 1944. He returned to the United States in November of 1944, named Executive Officer of the Infantry Training Regiment at Camp Lejeune in January of 1945, and took command of the regiment the very next month. In August of 1946, Fuller became director of the 8th Marine Corps Reserve District with headquarters at New Orleans, Louisiana. After the assignment, he commanded the Marine Barracks at Pearl Harbor until August of 1950, when he arrived at Camp Pendleton, California, to reestablish and take command of the 1st Marines, the same regiment he had led at Cape Gloucester and Kailua. Landing with the 1st Marines at Incheon, Korea in September of 1950, he continued to head that regiment until January of 1951, when he was promoted to Brigadier General and named Assistant Commander of the 1st Marine Division. That May, he returned to Camp Pendleton to command the newly reactivated 3rd Marine Division in January of 1952. After that, he was assistant to the division commander until he took over the Troop Training Unit Pacific at Coronado, California that June. He was promoted to Major General in September of 1953, and in July of 1954 assumed the command of the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune. Despite his illness, he retained that command until February of 1955, when he was appointed Deputy Camp Commander. He served in the capacity until August, when he entered the U.S. Naval Hospital at Camp Lejeune prior to retirement. In 1966, General Fuller requested to return to duty to serve in Vietnam, but was turned down because of his age. He died 11 October 1971 in Hampton, Virginia, after a long illness. He was 73.